Coast to Coast. Your coast-to-coast source for wedding planning and info is live. The WeddingZilla Podcast. The WeddingZilla Podcast. Everything and everyone you need to hear while planning your wedding, or even just thinking about it. The WeddingZilla Podcast. Featuring interviews and advice from some of the top professionals in the wedding industry. Connect. Facebook, Instagram. Connect on Facebook and Instagram at The WeddingZilla. At The WeddingZilla. And even submit ideas for future episodes. Welcome to the WeddingZilla Podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the WeddingZilla Podcast. My name is Wyatt Hill from the Ventura County market. I'm on with DJ Matt Johnson from Northern Virginia, the Washington, D.C. area. He is one of the best DJs in the business over there. Matt, say hello.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? How's everybody on the West Coast over there, Wyatt?
We're doing okay. A little, actually, the winds kind of calmed down a little bit today. It was a beautiful day. I was actually working in the shop on some new stuff, but we'll save that for another time.
Okay.
So, Matt, so for our first episode, maybe we should just get into things. So one of our topics that I posed to you was, since we're both DJs, is, how do you select a wedding DJ? There's, I wanted to talk about a little bit about, videos, reviews, two-person teams, what to ask. And we did a little bit of pre-research about some wedding lists that are available to couples online. And we went and took a look at those. So what do you think about some of the links I sent you about questions to ask a DJ?
Well, some of them were very interesting. Some of them were straight to the point, and some of them were a little iffy. But like always, you want to check their credentials, and there's so much now online, and the Wedding Wire reviews, the Knot, all these websites that you can check the reviews first and foremost, and then start asking the questions. One of the questions that stuck out to me was, when they're speaking with a DJ, is how they would describe their style. I believe that I'm talking specifically wedding DJs, we're in a service industry. Our job is to serve that client. And even though we might have personalities in our MCs, I think when it comes to music, your style should be whatever it is they want you to be. If they want you to play, 30% of Motown and, 60% of hip hop and another, percentage of EDM, that should be your style. I've never understood why DJ says, well, my style is just to play hip hop. Well, or whatever genre. We have to really be prepared to play pretty much anything the client wants.
I can't agree more. I mean, when someone asks me my style, you're right. I mean, the key word, service. My style is what my client wants. It's what sells. I mean, if you're interested in country music, guess what? I'm playing country music that night. If you're interested in multiple genres, which is one of the things I enjoy, specifically when we could play, different cultural music or Spanish or Indian or whatever. And I know you enjoy that too as well. But I asking your style, I don't know. I mean,
I think a lot of them mean their personalities, like what is their style? Do they talk a lot on the microphone, or are they, just quiet and let the music speak for itself? I think a wedding DJ, I'll be specific when I say this. I think a professional wedding DJ should be able to MC and have a personality, and MC when it's necessary. And some DJs like to hear themselves speak a lot on the microphone, say, hey, everybody on the dance floor, or something like that, when everybody already is on the dance floor. But so I understand that question. But when it comes to music, the style is whatever the client wants, in my opinion. It's pretty cut and dry for me.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you on that. So one of the questions I found on multiple lists was, can you show us your music library or song list? And I guess what as a couple, what are you supposed to draw a conclusion about that? I mean, yeah, here's my music, but really, 250,000, 500 songs. What is that going to do for you? You're not going to be able to play that many. So is that really important to a client? I mean, or a wedding couple? I don't think so.
Well, as long as they have access, because a lot of them, they've never put together a wedding before. They've never produced one and, never been married before. So it's all new to them. And we have to remind ourselves, at least I have to remind myself now and then that, oh my God, yeah, I've done hundreds, if not 1,000 weddings. And for me, it's another day at the office. But for them, it's a really big deal. It's a really special day. So they want to make sure everything's right. So I think, at least on our website, and I'm sure you do on yours, they can go and, what are today's top hits of the 90s, of the 2000s, of 2018, 2019? What are the standards and the top, 200 wedding songs? And they can slowly begin to plan what they enjoy or what genres they want played at their reception.
Absolutely. So going with our wedding couples, one of the tips is how does that DJ or MC or that company you're looking at, how do they collect your music? How do they, is it easy? When can you plan that? Is it a web-based? I know like mine's web-based. I know, Matt, yours is web-based, where our clients actually have a login and password. They can log in. They can put their select our music. There's helpful hints, suggestions. And then obviously when I believe you also meet with your wedding couples as well.
Absolutely.
And we give suggestions based on what they plugged in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the other questions here was, how did the couples come up with a playlist? Well, we don't want them to pick every song out. Otherwise they'd be DJing. We wouldn't. We'd just be pressing play for them. We'd like to fill in the blanks, but, I'd like to know how my clients think. I just want to know things they like. Every wedding has, older people and younger people. And that's one of the things I love about DJing weddings. I get to play everything from Frank Sinatra to today's, Pitbull or whoever, and everything in between. And, we just like to know what songs are important to them. And on that same level, we also want to know what songs they do not want to hear on their wedding day. If they think as a wedding DJ, I'd play it. And I don't really like to say what songs, that people think are overplayed. If that person wants to hear it, even if it's overplayed, then so be it. That's, like I said, we're in the service industry. So a do not play list is very important to me. When I see a couple that hasn't chosen any do not play songs, I worry a little bit. So I just say to them, hey, if there's songs you think I might play as a wedding DJ at your wedding, please put that in there, because I can read crowds pretty well, I think, but I definitely don't read minds. So, I want to know what they don't want to hear at their wedding as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I look for too. In fact, during our planning meeting, I usually ask them, okay, if I play, is there a specific song that if I play, you're just gonna, reach across the table and, beat me up for it? So having a do not playlist is kind of important. Now, one of the things I also saw on one of these lists was, what type of equipment do you use? And I guess as a couple, you're not a DJ, you're not in the business. Maybe you are, but I know most of my clients, I don't know how they would be able to judge if the question if it was a good answer or a bad answer. I guess you'd have to do it based on, I would assume, I guess I don't know how you would make a determination if you're asking that question.
Yeah. And, I think that most people, once you start talking technical stuff, whether you're using Pioneer, QSC, EVs, JBL, whatever style or of brand of speaker or controller, you can see them start to get lost. I just think it's something a questionnaire they get off the internet, and they just want to kind of see you answer it. I think, my answer is all professional grade DJ equipment, all professional grade, not anything else. I think it's important to have the best equipment for weddings, but that's just me.
Absolutely. So I guess, to make it easy for our couples that are listening, is so what are things that should be important to them? And I'm just going to fire off two things. One is I think that for starters is reviews. I think reading the reviews, not just looking at the number at 5.0 and then the number, which, oh, by the way, my company does have 100 reviews on Wedding Wire and over 50 on the Dot, just saying. But at 5.0, but actually read the reviews, because you can get a lot of information out of those reviews, how they interacted with the client. I think that's important. And then two, I think video is very, very key. And to me, DJs who don't have video nowadays, I don't understand. I don't see how they're selling services without video. And I know I spend a lot of time on video, and I believe, you're a big believer in having video too as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They also can, let's go back to equipment just for a moment. I take pictures of my setup. Once I set up at an event, I take pictures of my speakers, my sub, everything. And that's something I show them, meaning I have my scrims, I have my tabletop, my wires aren't all sticking out. It's a very clean and sleek look. So I think pictures are telling. I see some DJs use that, some do not. You can't see, but I'm having a soda at my table. Obviously I have paper and pen out to take notes, run my timeline, etc. But I think taking pictures as well can be a positive
pictures.
thing.
I guess pictures and video, because you're right. I mean, having a DJ facade, which is what they call what goes around the DJ space, to kind of hide, some of the, the messiness, our kind of our work stuff.
Or at least on the table, right? The table toppers. I like it. At least for me, they're easier to carry around than the bigger facades. But either way, I'm a tabletop scrim guy myself. But
Right, exactly. And then I like having scrims on my speaker stands because I mean, who walks by and says, "Oh, how romantic, look at that speaker stand." But those are little details, and you might think that it's not that big of a deal. But when I guess I talk to couples and I look at different things, and if you look at all the bride magazines, I mean, it's all about looks. It's the place settings, florals, dresses, and I guess looks are important. And so having the wires taped down nicely and cleanly, having the facade, either if it's on the tabletop or around your table, or having covers over your speaker stands, or taking those extra little steps, I think it does make a difference. So I think that might be another question if you're really hung up on how things look because you spend all that money on rentals and stuff like that. I think that could be important too as well. What do you think about the video though? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, I don't think it's a tell-all, but I think videos are important. I think they have a useful place. They're a useful tool, but I think it takes a lot of things. And for example, some DJ companies do bridal shows. We, for example, here in Northern Virginia, do a meet the DJ night. A lot of people will ask when they're searching for a DJ for their wedding, "Hey, can we come see you at a wedding?" And of course, the answer to that is no. I cannot invite you to somebody else's wedding. So in lieu of that, we do what they call a meet the DJ night, and we put on like a mock reception, and we invite potential clients that have not signed on with us yet. Most of them are leads. And we refer maybe one or two of the DJs that are going to be at Meet the DJ Night. And they come, and each DJ will go out and briefly introduce himself, tell a little bit of background. And then we'll do like a couple introductions, wedding introductions, to kind of give them a visual on what their day would be like. And that has been really, really successful for us. Typically speaking, after that, we sign, 40 to 60% of the clients on right after that. So they get to see what the DJ looks like, walks like, and talks like in a suit, and sees a little bit of their own personality. So seeing it live as well, I think that has been a very successful event for us.
Yeah, I can't agree more, Matt. I mean, anytime you're able to see your DJ or meet your DJ or just have some type of interaction, I think it really kind of helps get a sense of feeling or vibe that person would have at your wedding or event. I wish, honestly, here in California, I know like in the northern New Jersey or in New Jersey market in general, they have bridal shows where actually the DJs actually perform. And unfortunately, they don't do a lot of that here in Southern California. I wish they did, because I definitely would be able to demonstrate my skills before you seen me. So I guess I'll have to stick with the video. What about, I guess, other couple of key things I think are important is making sure they have, insurance, because some specifically Marriott's and other venues require insurance from the DJs. Backup. I mean, that's also another thing. I mean, I know I've never had to back out of an event last minute. So thankfully, but I do have a backup plan just in case of the event. And then also backup equipment. I mean, even recently at Ultra, if you're an EDM fan, I mean, Cash was going on to perform, and the mixer went out. I mean, literally, the mixer like stopped working, and of course, Cash, pulled the mixer out and threw it out, and kind of a big old deal. But anyway, so it can even happen to the big pros. But do you think having asking the question, do you have backup equipment or a backup DJ? You think that's kind of important for wedding couples to ask?
Sure. I think it's a very important, they're concerned. It's their wedding day. It's not a backyard barbecue. You can't do a repeat of this. So, here again, I'm going to go back. I can tell you a story recently. It's a professional. I think it's important to stress this, a professional wedding DJ. I mean, knock on wood, I've been doing this for 20 years and I have never, ever missed an event, a gig, a job. I never, not once, due to an injury or cold. Of course, I've done it with not feeling well before, but I'll just take a couple of Advil, whatever I need to get through it. But knock on wood, I've never missed it. But this is extremely important to the client. We recently got a call from a venue who knows our company very well. And they said the DJ didn't show up. Can you help us? And this was a morning ceremony. It was the ceremony. I think it was at 10:30 or 11. So we started making phone calls, and we found a DJ, of course, and he went in and basically rescued their wedding reception. And the venue actually called the DJ who was originally hired, and it sounded like he was still in bed. And they said, hey, whatever his name was, where are you? And he said, oh, that wedding's today. And that was his answer. Yes. And he, I mean, how devastating was that to that bride on that day, thinking, okay, now I'm not even going to have a DJ. It's over. And of course, we came in with the cape on, and, we rescued, and she was completely, delighted and happy that her wedding day was saved. But here again, he was not a professional wedding DJ. He did it on the side, maybe earned some extra money. He obviously didn't even care enough, and that's really sad to do that to somebody on their wedding day. So last year, what happened to me, I think it's important, you said Cash's mixer went. Well, my computer, with no symptom prior to it, crashed while the dance floor was packed. And I mean, it just died. There wasn't a symptom. There wasn't a hiccup, just nothing. And, I immediately tried to restart the software, and I smelt the burning. Long story short, the motherboard burnt. It was fried. That computer had seen its day. So I think here again, what does, live and learn? I had a backup, of course, another backup MacBook Pro in my case, and I pulled it out. Of course, the playlist I had backed up as well, and I plugged it in. Within 2.5 minutes, I was up and running, and the groom just walked up. I said, hey, I'm really sorry, and he was into computers. He was in, I forget what he did for a living, but he had something to do with computers. And his thing was, he goes, Matt, I'm impressed how fast you got back up and running. And I think that's what, professionals do. You've got to back up the backup and their music playlist as well. It doesn't take that much of an effort when you're preparing, on Thursday or whatever day you prepare on for the upcoming wedding on the weekend, or weddings, especially when you're doing multiple way. Oh my God, you got to, go over each playlist, each intro, first dance song, parent dance, check it twice and then back it up. So, I was lucky because I was prepared. I was a good little Eagle Scout that I'm not, but I was prepared, and the beat went on. So we do live in the real world, and things do happen. Of course, we do our best to minimize those things, but I think a professional, it's like, okay, what happens when it does happen? What do you do? And that's what professionals will have an answer.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a couple small little things, but most of the time I'm able to detect them before they happen. But just like you said, I mean, I'm before the event, I'm prepping, I'm getting my playlist together, I'm checking my equipment, checking my laptops. I do travel with an extra MacBook Pro. I mean, if anyone's ever bought a MacBook Pro, and specifically if you carry a lot of music, you're not just doing the opening price point, one that you get at Best Buy. Usually you have to carry one that has a little bit more memory. So having 2 MacBook Pros plus all the equipment, so you have usually a substantial investment, and that's the reason why you're going with a better DJ company, right?
Yeah. You're going to pay a little bit more, but it's I think it's well worth the cost for what you get. I've heard so many horror stories in social circles, about hey, my DJ didn't do this or didn't do that. And, once I have a little bit of a conversation with him and I found out, kind of what they paid for him and what his credentials were, I go, yeah, you kind of got what you paid for. But one of the other things I noticed is one of the things they look for is have you worked at the venue before? I think for a lot of couples that seems to be important. As far as, I don't know about you, but I think it's great to be familiar with the venue. But if I'm not familiar with the venue that I haven't been to before, if it's convenient, I'll do a site inspection. But if it's not, if it's an hour and a half away, I certainly don't want to drive 3 hours to walk in a room and go, oh, there's where your table's going to be, and there's the outlet that you're going to plug into. Oh, okay. I think it's important to go there early. I would certainly be there earlier on the day of, even if it's another hour earlier, just to familiarize myself with the layout. There's work that you can do online, just like they do. I can look up the event online. Sometimes they show the rooms. So I think it's important to a degree, but I don't think it should be a deal breaker for them to hire a DJ or not. A professional will do their research and do their homework on that venue, but I don't think it's necessary that it should be a deal breaker for whether they've set up in a certain ballroom at a certain hotel or venue or somewhere. But it certainly doesn't hurt to be familiar with the venue.
I agree with you. I mean, actually next weekend, I'm going out to the Queen Mary in Long Beach because we have a wedding there. And I've never performed at the Queen Mary out there. It's about 2 hours away. So typically it's out of my normal area, if you will, for doing DJ services. But I'm going out doing a site visit so I can be a little bit more comfortable, see how long, what the load-in's like, see what the drive is like. They also ask some, special requests for some lighting. But I mean, when it comes to DJ services, if I'm specifically just doing audio, I mean, if I'm just doing the reception, I mean, I just need an outlet. You point the direction where I need to be at. Do I really need to know the venue? Probably not. But if I'm doing special lighting, you want a monogram, or you want specific things in specific areas, then yeah, maybe I need to go do a site visit. But if you're a pro, I mean, I did another event down in San Diego, which again, it's about 3 or 4 hours away. But I went down we went down the night before. We checked it out, made sure we, did a little bit of recon. I was in touch with the venue before we even went. I brought, just in case, I brought extra equipment with me to make sure, if there was something specific that, I would be able to overcome whatever issue there was. And lo and behold, it wasn't, wasn't that big of a deal. But I came prepared, and it's because I'm a pro, and that's why they hired me. And I believe this was like the 3rd wedding I did for this family, and it pays off. Now, what about because differences in DJs, differences, so we talked about let's talk a little bit about talent level, the 2-person team. Some DJs work solo by themselves. Some DJs, have them and an assistant. What do you say about that?
Well, an assistant, it'd be a trained assistant is what is helpful. When you have somebody who's trained to a certain degree, of course, loading in and loading out is always very helpful. Some of the events you do in DC can be a nightmare. I mean, just parking your car outside, you're talking about, Washington, DC. You leave your car there for a minute, you come back, could be gone or towed. So some of these hotels are old, where you might have to go through multiple elevators to get to a particular floor or room. And so an assistant is super helpful in just that aspect. And now, as far as a performing aspect, yeah, I mean, when you have a trained assistant for you to concentrate more on your emceeing, and you have somebody back there to press play when you need them to, is certainly an asset. Not for every event, for a smaller event, but when you're doing bigger events, especially for crowd control, if you have 175 to, let's say, 300 people, And, people would like to have a good times at weddings, and we want them to have a good time. But if they've had a few drinks, they can start inundating you with requests. And while you're trying to DJ, and if you're alone and you don't have that assistant, you're being inundated with questions and other people doing it. It can distract you a little bit from your actual job that they're paying you to do. So to have a good assistant there to kind of buffer that from you while you're concentrating on keeping the dance floor packed is always an asset.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I would say about 95% of my weddings, unless they're really small, I work with an assistant. And the reason why I work with an assistant is sometimes that assistant sees things that I don't see. And I have them also walk around to check sound levels, specifically during dinner time, cocktail hour, things like that. Having an extra person does, like you said, hit those buttons. If I'm doing introductions and I'm one of those DJs that does introductions in front of the table, not behind the table, I feel it's a little bit more personal connection. I also edit the music before, for introductions and different things. So having that assistant behind the table where they can push those buttons and where I can actually be a true MC and actually MC your wedding. So I think that's a big takeaway when you're looking at wedding DJs. Do they work with an assistant or without? And I think a lot of it also comes down to a customer service level. Again, just like you said earlier in the podcast about service, I want a higher level of service given to my clients. I like to be able to be in a position to say yes. I like to be able to be in a position where we'll just take care of it. And instead of just saying, yeah, I can't do it or no, or this, I hate the word no in general anyways.
Yeah. I also think what's important when couples are searching for a DJ and getting some background on them is, are they referred at the venue? If it's a very popular venue, every venue will have a referral list. And usually the DJs that are on that referral list are pretty much professional wedding DJs. Otherwise, they wouldn't be referred. Because, having a great referral to a DJ is a reflection on that venue as well. So I think if they should take those referrals seriously, which they do a lot. I'm a booking agent as well as a DJ for my company. And when we get a call and that we've been referred from the venue, they're more likely to hire on with our company than not. So I think that's also, referrals is also really, really important to the couple.
Do you think couples should pay attention to social media from a DJ or DJ company, or what about maintaining their blog? I mean, do you think those are important things that a couple should look at before hiring a company?
I think it depends. It depends on what kind of information they're getting from it. I think one of the things a couple will look at first is a personality. They'll look at a DJ. Oh, I really like their personality, or maybe the way they look. But I think you have to go much deeper than that. Experience is everything in this business. The longer you've been doing it, I would say I would start off there. Like, how long have you been doing weddings? Not DJing in a club, not DJing in your basement or your backyard. How long have you been doing weddings specifically, and how many have you done? They don't need to know exact, but is it 10 or is it 300, 500, 5,000? Because if once those numbers start getting up there, you should be pretty skilled at what you do. But check their emceeing skills as well. Are you do you just play music? One of the venues where our office is in a building where a venue is, and the coordinators that work there will say to us, like, on a Monday, like, oh my God, we had a DJ in here last night and he was just awful. And it's like, I always believe there's two sides to the story. So I'm like, well, wait a second. What made the DJ awful? Why was he or she awful? And usually it's, he couldn't MC. He couldn't run a timeline. I walked into a venue last week, and the woman who works there said, "Oh, here again, last week the DJ was awful." Okay, what made him? He did not know how to run a timeline. Okay, he probably wasn't a professional wedding DJ, and so the modern wedding DJ is much more than a DJ. It's you're an MC, you're a coordinator, you're running a timeline. There's so much more to a technician. If something goes wrong, you need to figure it out. So there's a lot that goes into our work that I don't think a lot of people see. So
Again, Matt, I totally agree. Being a DJ as well, there's just so many aspects of so many different hats we wear. People don't really think about it until you really, start getting down into the nuts and bolts. But really, technically, from the moment the reception kicks off to the end, I mean, we're the ones that are saying, "Hey, this is next." We're making announcements. We're inviting people up to do toasts. We're kind of leading the party down the path to the dance time. And,
exactly.
And we're communicating information, and if there's little hiccups along the way, we're the ones that have to communicate it to the rest of the the guests that are there, and in some respects, I mean, we kind of sometimes cover up maybe some little boo-boos from other vendors, which is okay because we're all on the same team. We the team to win for the couple, right?
Right, exactly. And transitions are important. When there's a big lulls in here again, I think experience and training. The younger DJs really need to learn from the seasoned DJs. I'm from a background of dance and theater, and everything that we do is you're trained to do it. Everything is rehearsed. But so transitions are extremely important to keeping the flow of a reception going. You don't want those lulls in there. So I think these things are important for a couple to ask and do their research on of how experienced your DJ is. You might like the other DJ, maybe the way they look better, but if they don't have that experience, you could be jeopardizing. They might look good at your wedding, but your wedding might not be good because of their lack of experience.
Yeah, experience. I know. I mean, there's just certain things that you can read about, you can watch a webinar about, you can YouTube it, but actually physically, literally being there, you just, some of the stuff they just don't make up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for example, I think staying connected to a room, at least me as a DJ, I wondered, I'm looking at one of the questions that they ask a band, like, how many breaks do you take? At least for me as a DJ, if I'm going to eat, I eat very quickly. I don't like to lose contact with the room for any lengthy period of time. Some DJs will disappear, like for 45 minutes. It's like, where are they? In the meantime, people want to get up and dance, or anything could be happening in that room if you're gone too long. God only knows. So many things happen at a reception, or could happen.
And that's another reason why I like working, one, with an assistant, and two, which leads us down maybe a different path about, talking about wedding planners and timelines and stuff, but is, typically I usually don't eat at a wedding just because I don't want to be disconnected from the room. But if I am going to be able to eat, it has to be done at the same time as the bride and groom. Because really, I mean, the party, right after they're done eating, if they're not touching tables, I mean, we're ready to go right into the toast. So, feeding technically your wedding team, which includes your photographer and your other wedding vendors, feeding them, later on is not helpful at all. You might as you pretty much just flush that money down the toilet. So,
and I also think what's important for couples as well is when they're searching DJs or DJ companies, like, do they offer other services? Because I think, and if you do, they'd rather come under one umbrella, opposed to signing 3 or 4 different contracts, 3 or 4 different vendors for, uplighting, photo booth, dance floor lighting, gobos, all the other stuff that goes with it. So I think that's important for them too. And if you offer that, to always let them know that you offer these other services as well as DJ services as well. I think they're inclined to like that a little bit better.
All right. So Matt, final word. So let's say your top 5 important things that couples should ask their wedding DJ.
Well, top 5, huh? Well, I think experience. Have they? Are they referred by any of the venues? How much experience do they have? How long have they been doing it? My question about equipment for me would be, is it all professional grade equipment? Like I said, I think it's important to have pictures there that you could show them actually what your equipment looks like. Let's see. I don't know. You kind of stumped me there on 5. I don't think I gave you 5 there, did I? And or they can check referrals that you have. If you can give them the if some other couples that you've done in the past, if they can speak with them, I think that's important as well.
For me, my top 5, is reviews. Read the reviews.
Mhm.
The number of reviews they have. I think that's kind of important. I think video, to me, having video or pictures, as you suggested, I think that's important. Specifically, raw video. I know on my videos, I put raw video at the end of the front video. Another one for me is call your DJ. If you can't meet your DJ in person, have a phone call with your DJ. And then there is a reason why. Sometimes, the price at least for me, the price that I put out is kind of a catch-all. In other words, I don't know, what you're going to need until we start getting down to speaking about a little bit of details. So I think having that conversation instead of just, treating DJ services like buying an appliance online or buying a widget, if you will, I think actually talking to your DJ, I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that one, Wyatt. So
I know a lot of clients don't want to do it, but I'm telling you, pick up the phone, talk to them. Trust me, specifically when you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3. Those are 3. I think the equipment thing is definitely a piece, making sure it's not home grade but pro grade. Also as well would be insurance, making sure that they also are insured, making sure they actually have a legit website. Those are all important, I think, indicators, making sure that you actually have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with that.
All right. So I think we're about at 36 minutes. So we'll go ahead and put a bow on this until next week. Thank you, Matt, for being on. And
Wyatt, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Take it easy over there on the West Coast. We got springtime here, so things are looking up, and we are ready for the upcoming wedding season of 2019. It's going to be a great one.
Oh, yeah. And we're out.
The WeddingZilla podcast. Everything and everyone you need to hear while planning your wedding. Tons of resources are on our website, too. And you can submit ideas for future episodes. Visit theweddingzilla.com. Theweddingzilla.com. And stay connected. Stay connected on Facebook and Instagram. @TheWeddingZilla. @TheWeddingZilla. The WeddingZilla podcast.